Christian Horner has been quite vocal about the stewarding process during the Montreal GP, especially the one that was applied to Yuki Tsunoda on the last day of free practice. Overtaking Piastri's damaged car turned out to be a significant cost for Yuki's race, as he was slapped with a 10-place grid penalty for Sunday's race. Regarding this matter, and with the entire F1 world angry at the FIA, can the governing body change something in this regard? And if so, can they apply consistent penalties for drivers who drive cars in unsafe conditions on the track? The penalty that Yuki Tsunoda received during Saturday's free practice session was bizarre, to say the least. Although he did overtake under a red flag, the conditions on the track did not allow him to drive behind Piastri and not risk damage to his car. Oscar Piastri drove with a punctured tire around the entire circuit, and it was obvious that the McLaren driver was posing a serious threat to the rest of the grid. A similar situation happened with Perez last year during the race weekend when he drove a car with a broken rear wing back to the pit lane. The stewards penalized the Red Bull driver with a 3-place grid penalty for the next race in Barcelona. But in this year's version, the FIA believed that Yuki was at fault for his overtaking maneuver. Christian Horner was not happy about it. When addressing the FIA penalty on Tsunoda and how it ruined his race before it even started properly, the Red Bull team principal stated, "Yuki was nailed on Saturday for making an overtake, and then a few cars overtook whilst there were marshals on the track after the race. So one would expect some form of consistency. Again, once his tires cleaned up, I thought he actually did a decent job, and you can see how hard overtaking is here. So I thought Yuki should take some confidence from it." What Horner is referring to here is the fact that there was a post-race investigation for overtaking under safety car conditions when the race ended on Sunday. But none of the drivers got penalized for it. Even Yuki himself hoped that he could see penalties applied to the drivers ahead of him, something that would have probably bolstered him to P5 had all of the noted drivers been penalized. But it seems like the consistency process is not something that bodes well with the FIA. Yet another point of scrutiny that the governing body needs to defend itself against. The belief is quite simple. How can you penalize Tsunoda for overtaking under red flag conditions when the car in question was driving extremely slowly and outside of the racing line? At the end of the day, the Red Bull driver did what he believed was best at that moment. He didn't waste crucial seconds behind a crippling car and risk damaging his own vehicle as well. Considering that Piastri's car could have easily thrown debris all over the track, it would have been massively dangerous for Tsunoda to go behind him and risk even stopping on the circuit due to the slowness of the car ahead of him. Imagine if Piastri's car stopped all of a sudden and Tsunoda was driving behind him. Not only would the Japanese driver be forced to stop as well, but he'd risk being hit by someone from behind. You cannot blame Yuki for doing what he did because he's definitely done the right thing. I understand that the rules are rules, but if the FIA truly respected the rules, they might have fined Piastri as well for driving a crippled car on the grid and not pulling to the side and waiting for the marshals to remove it. Tsunoda's explanation of why he went extremely to the right is more or less the perfect explanation as to why he did what he did on the track. Elaborating from his point of view on the 10-place grid penalty, the Japanese driver said, "I saw Piastri's tire was going sideways, and I thought the tire was going to fly away. Obviously, I knew that, so I went far right. I checked the car ahead of Oscar and the car behind myself to make sure there's no one. I went far left the opposite way to overtake him with a sensible speed, which was 170 kilometers per hour, half the speed we normally drive. And I got a penalty, so having a 10-place penalty is ridiculous for me. I don't know what they want me to do. For me, it was just hoping that debris won't hit me." As you can probably imagine, Tsunoda's race was ruined as he dropped out in Q2. This meant that he was poised to start dead last, with Lawson and Gasly taking penalties for changing the car under Parc Fermé conditions. According to Horner, we would have seen a much better result from Tsunoda had it not been for this penalty, as he went on to say, if Tsunoda had started in his normal grid position, where he qualified, he would have scored points. I think he must try to avoid what other drivers have done and gone down the road of trying to adopt Max's setup, and to go for his own route and work on what suits his style and needs, and I think he's made some progress. The same belief wasn't shared by Peter Bayer, who literally begged Red Bull to wait and not take this talent away from them. As of now, it seems like the intention of the Faenza-based squad is to have the Frenchman for the entirety of 2026 as well, before they are ready to make a move elsewhere, one that will likely end up with signing Lindblad. But the ambitions of Red Bull are much more advanced, and the situation of bringing Arvid to Racing Bulls and Hajar next to Max could be fast-tracked a little bit, something that won't fit the narrative of the Italian-based squad at all. The situation is not looking good for Yuki, because unlike Lawson, if he is to get demoted by Red Bull, he won't receive a seat in Racing Bulls. If the Austrian team decides that Hajar is the better solution for 2025 and the first year of the regulations in 2026, then Tsunoda will likely have to look for a seat elsewhere. As of now, the only team that offers a seat is Cadillac, with their focus being shifted to more experienced drivers like Perez and Bottas.